There's the sounder says, wake up. Please pay attention. Stan is here, and he has hopefully an interesting idea. And because you are an interesting person, and you probably have a number of interested ideas, and you could like to share them with me, I'd like to just keep putting them out there, have you respond to them and react to them. Maybe tell me where I'm off, and tell me where I can go, and tell me when I'm perhaps doing something that's good, helpful, and useful. And then, of course, I'll invite you to do the same for me from you. Today, hey, I'd like to talk about tombstone and tabloids. You got me. Tombstone and tabloids. And just a few thoughts as we are in this week that leading up to, in many cases, the Passover celebration and, of course, the Easter or Resurrection celebration. So that's the program for today. Stay tuned, because the program begins right now. I had the pleasure of the past weekend going to a retreat at a place called the Cove, which is right here in North Carolina, in the beautiful, as I'm discovering, state of North Carolina in the mountains. Kind of a mountain retreat place. And I was able to hear some of the top people, particularly Tony Dungy, with 2 Super Bowl rings and life of coaching in football, and now doing some broadcasting work, telling about his life and faith experience. And one of his good friends, J.B. Brown, who's quite a character, also in the sports announcing arena, and they brought some things about how to help us struggling men to perhaps live a better life and be better at the roles that we have in terms of being a partner to a woman and, of course, a father to our children. Found it good. I was encouraged. But in the meantime, I got a note from one of my friends who is I would say young, because he's probably 2 generations younger than me, who is a very good and clever pastor. And he really reaches out and connects to people at not only spirit levels, but right at life levels. And he said in his note this: hey, guess what? All of us are only 3 days away from being in the tabloids, and some of us are on day 2. So tabloids and tombstones, what could that be all about? Well, let me first of all explain. Well, the idea is behind a tabloid is that you mess up. You really goof it up. Or something bad happens to you. And it is so consequential that you end up in those tabloid newspapers where they kind of specialize in doom and bad destinies and bad behavior. And the point is, most of us are not experiencing that, but we need to remember that that could happen anytime. That we could make a bad mistake. Think of what that 15 minutes of 15 seconds of the slap did for a well-known and famous actor. He's a tabloid guy now. Rather than people remembering his incredible performance and the award that he received, he's in the tabloids, and life is quite difficult. And what my friend was reminding us, that even though we may not make the tabloids, that through our careless living or, just bad things happening, even to good people, we are perhaps only 3 days away from being in the tabloids. And as he went on to say, Perhaps we're all, some of us at least, are on day 2, so it could happen any moment. So the point is, we should always be aware of how we are treating others, of perhaps the consequences of the decisions we're making. In effect, we're thoughtful and we're mindful. And we're seeking to have, as I say, some special wisdom. We're seeking to have that kind of understanding the times and knowing what to do, so that more and more our life is governed by some very good decisions, rather than where we have to react to the bad things that are happening to us, whether it is of our choosing or not, or of our even causing or not. How can we do that? So that's just a good reminder. Be careful, be thoughtful, be friendly, be kind. Think that way. Well, of course, that leads to the other, the tombstone. Now, I've oftentimes wondered about that, because many times you may know, if you've actually done any kind of thinking at all, or you've seen things, that back in the times past, the tombstone was more than a name and perhaps the dates, maybe a small note, or maybe even a scripture verse, or a thought, or a memo, or a quote. Oftentimes it was kind of a short story of the person's life, and oftentimes a tribute to the life they had led. Well, all of us are going to leave some kind of tombstone. As I said in our program last week, when you're dead, what do you want them to say about you? Think about that. Begin with the end in mind. Every day, what do you want them to say about you when you're dead? And here's what I also say. Do I live it every day? Not always. But what am I going to do today to end up that way? When I begin with the end in mind as to how I want my life to be remembered, certainly by those I love and we care for, perhaps by those people who know me and have some concern or care for me, and maybe even for those people who've never really known me or care about me, but they hear about me. What do I want them to hear? How do I want to be remembered? As I pointed out, Peter Drucker, the world-famous passed-on consultant who talked to the biggest of the Fortune, not just 500s, the Fortune 50, maybe the Fortune 10 CEOs, came to the conclusion later on in his life that he could not really help a person who had never dealt with the question, how do you want to be remembered? First of all, your term as CEO will expire someday, sometime. How do you want to be remembered? Secondly, your career, the kinds of jobs you did, and the work you did, that too will come to a time when you can no longer do that. And of course, the final goodbye, the final remembrance is when you're gone. How do you want to be remembered? And as I point out, Drucker came to the conclusion that if a man, or mostly men, but if a woman could not give him a clear definition of some of those things, he would have to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you until you can answer that question. Perhaps you can call me back when you know the answer to that question. And oftentimes, as I say, I've shared that with people, and I often shared it with college groups. And of course, it had less impact then, because none of them ever expected that they're going to die very soon. That's true of all of us. We don't think the tabloids and tragedy and the tombstone will come to us for a long, long time. Not just 2 or 3 days, but of course it can. We think we're going to go on. That old line, we're going to live forever. But of course we're not. But the young woman who raised her hand and said, Stan, I don't want to think about the tombstone, but you've really caused me to think about the fact that I deal with customers and clients and colleagues of this university all the time, and every time I'm in front of them, something happens. And so I've decided that every time I have a customer transaction, a student interaction, working with a donor or someone in the college, I'm going to ask myself, when this is done, when this conversation is over, when this whatever we have to accomplish is done and over, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want them to think about me as a result of the fact that they worked with me, did business with me, or had some encounter with me? I don't know what happened to that girl. And of course, she's now a woman, for sure. But I think it's probably very, very good. If she really lived that way, I think she's probably a smashing success and quite happy in the life she is now living. At least I hope so, because she got a good start to making that happen. So there we go. Hey, we start the week. Tombstone or tabloids, or tabloids or tombstone, you may only be days away. Just again, let that sit on your head for a while, and we'll be back. I'm in the business of helping you to think better, live better, and do better. It's that simple. That's what I do, and I do it well. So please remember that I don't want to boast or proclaim too much, but I simply ask for the opportunity to do an audition and a little bit of a demonstration and how I can help you. So if there's a way that I can help you, I'll be glad to, in a complimentary way, get you started on whatever issue it is that you're in right now that is making life and business a little bit difficult or challenging. Or perhaps it's because you are taking on a challenge and you're creating particularly good stuff, and you want a little bit of, as I say, a little bit of counsel, because independent intelligence is terminal. If you do it all by yourself, there's a good chance you'll do something wrong, and that the best always have a coach or a counselor or a confidant, or at least a good friend that they can talk and share things with. And perhaps I can be one or all of those to you. Again, my name is Stan, and you can reach out to me at stanhusted@gmail.com, stanhusted@gmail.com. I hope this has been an interesting idea, and I hope it's been more than that, but that's what we're all about, so we'd love to hear from you. Again, stanhusted@gmail.com with your questions. Perhaps you want to share an interesting idea and you want me to comment on it, or you might say, Stan, I'd even like to see if I could be on your program, because I've got an interesting idea. And I've got a telephone, so you can call me up and we can talk. And then I'll say, and if we do just that, I can put it on the radio and it'll go around the world. Think about that. Best and blessings to you. Take care through the rest of the week. Bye for now.